10 years, a decade marked by unanswered questions, aching hearts, and the relentless search for a loved one who vanished without a trace. This is the story of Lisa Matthews, a vibrant 28-year-old woman who disappeared on a warm summer evening in 2013, leaving behind a family shattered by grief and a community desperate for answers. For years, Lisa's mother, Karen, held on to hope that her daughter would return, only to be met with silence. The family displayed her photo in their living room, now worn and faded, a constant reminder of the joy that once filled their lives. But as the years passed, the world moved on, and the case grew cold. Then, in an unexpected twist of fate, everything changed. A single photo upload, innocently shared on social media, would reignite the flames of hope and thrust the Matthews family back into the spotlight of this unsolved mystery. This seemingly mundane moment, forgotten in the vast expanse of the internet, would soon unravel a tapestry of secrets and lies that had long remained hidden. But how could a simple photo bring forth a new wave of investigation in a case that had been all but abandoned? To understand the significance of this discovery, we must first delve into the painful history of Lisa's disappearance and the impact it had on those who loved her. On that fateful evening in June, Lisa was last seen leaving a friend's house, her bright smile and infectious laughter echoing in the warm summer air. She was on her way home, a mere 10-minute drive, yet she never made it. Hours turned into days, and when the authorities were alerted, the search began in earnest. Friends and family plastered flyers around town, hoping that someone would have seen her. But after exhaustive searches, countless interviews, and a barrage of media coverage, the trail grew cold. 10 years went by, and as the seasons changed, so did the lives of those left behind. Lisa's mother, Karen, became a silent warrior in the fight for her daughter's truth. Each passing year wore down her resolve, yet she kept Lisa's memory alive, attending vigils, speaking out in the media, and reaching out to private investigators. Her heart was heavy, but the flame of hope flickered faintly within her, urging her to keep searching. It was during one of these quiet moments of reflection that Karen stumbled upon a social media group dedicated to missing persons. She joined, sharing Lisa's story with others who understood her pain. Within this community, Karen discovered a support system, a network of families united by the same heartache. And it was there that she learned about the power of digital footprints. The world had changed dramatically in the decade since Lisa disappeared. Social media had become a pervasive force, connecting people across vast distances. The internet was now a repository of images and experiences, capturing moments that were often fleeting, and it was this digital age that would ultimately turn the tide in Karen's search for the truth. One day, while scrolling through a feed filled with missing person cases and well-meaning updates, Karen came across a photograph that made her heart race. It was a snapshot from a birthday celebration held in a nearby city. The image depicted a group of friends gathered around a table, laughter filling the air, and in the background, Karen spotted a familiar face. It was Lisa. Taken just months after her disappearance, the photo sent a shockwave through Karen. How could this be? Had someone known where Lisa was all along? The questions flooded her mind, a torrent of confusion and renewed determination. This was the first real lead she had received in 10 long years, and she knew she had to investigate further. The photograph was traced back to a private account belonging to one of the guests at the party, and Karen reached out, her heart pounding as she typed her message. Skepticism clouded the air as the authorities advised her to let it go. 10 years had dulled their senses, and Lisa's case was a mere footnote in their records. But for Karen, this photo was not just a footnote, it was a beacon of hope. As she began her own investigation, Karen faced an uphill battle. Friends and family were supportive, but she also encountered whispers of doubt and disbelief. How could she think this photo had any real significance? Yet, the nagging thoughts of what could have been haunted her. What if Lisa was still out there, living a life that she never chose? The deeper Karen dug, the more she uncovered a web of secrets. The people in that photograph held stories she had never known, secrets that intertwined with Lisa's life in ways she could have never imagined. Friends turned into strangers, and familiar faces morphed into puzzle pieces of a dark narrative. As Karen fought against the tide of skepticism, she discovered a twist that would leave her breathless. The truth behind Lisa's disappearance was not just a simple case of a girl lost in the night. It was a complicated mix of betrayal, hidden lives, and a conspiracy that reached further than she could have ever anticipated. The journey that lay ahead would take Karen down paths she had never expected to tread. It would test her resolve, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately lead her to confront the very forces that had sought to bury the truth. But through it all, she remained steadfast in her pursuit of justice for her daughter. This is where our story begins, a decade of silence shattered by a single photo, leading one mother on an unexpected journey into the heart of darkness. Join us as we unravel the layers of this chilling mystery and witness the power of hope in the face of despair. In the next part, we will explore the clues that emerged from that fateful photograph and the revelations that followed. The truth awaits, and it may be more shocking than anyone could ever imagine. As the days turned into weeks, Karen immersed herself in the investigation. The photo, a seemingly innocent snapshot of a gathering, held whispers of secrets yet to be uncovered. With each pixel, she felt the weight of her daughter's absence pressing down on her. She scrutinized every face, every detail, searching for clues that might point to Lisa. Determined to connect the dots, Karen reached out to the people in the photo. They were acquaintances, friends from a time when Lisa was still vibrant and full of life. Some were eager to help, sharing memories and stories, while others grew defensive, reluctant to discuss that night. The mixed responses only fueled Karen's determination. What were they hiding? One evening, while reviewing old news articles about Lisa's case, she stumbled upon a name that sent chills down her spine. Mark Henderson, a local businessman. He had previously been questioned during the initial investigation, but had quickly fallen off the radar. Karen recalled a fleeting mention of Mark from Lisa's friends, a name spoken in hushed tones, often accompanied by nervous laughter. What role did he play in her daughter's life? With a newfound sense of purpose, Karen decided to dig deeper. She learned that Mark had a penchant for secrecy, with a web of connections that spanned beyond the quaint town where she raised Lisa. As she delved into his background, a disturbing pattern emerged. Multiple reports hinted at shady dealings and rumors of a hidden life, one that was far removed from the polished image he portrayed. Yet, Karen faced an uphill battle. When she approached the authorities with her findings, their dismissive attitudes only deepened her resolve. They had written off Mark years ago, believing he posed no threat, but Karen sensed a darkness surrounding him, one that loomed larger than she had ever imagined. Armed with determination and a growing collection of evidence, she decided to confront Mark herself. It was a decision fraught with anxiety and fear, but she could not let the investigation stall. She had to know the truth. As she prepared for their meeting, Karen felt a mix of trepidation and adrenaline, aware that she was crossing a threshold into an unknown territory that could either lead her closer to Lisa or bury her deeper in despair. In the dim light of a local cafe, she faced Mark for the first time in years. He exuded an air of confidence, his charming facade hiding what felt like a predator lurking beneath. As they exchanged pleasantries, Karen's heart raced. She could sense the weight of the moment, the confrontation that could either shatter her or finally bring clarity to Lisa's disappearance. As their conversation unfolded, Karen strategically steered the dialogue toward that fateful night. Mark's demeanor shifted subtly, a flicker of something dark crossing his eyes. She pressed on, her voice steady despite the chaos brewing within her. But just as she felt she was closing in, Mark deflected her questions, expertly weaving a web of deceit. And then, in a moment that would forever change the course of her investigation, he said something unexpected. A casual mention of a location, a place where Lisa had once been seen, a place he had never mentioned before. Karen felt a chill run down her spine. Was this the breakthrough she had been seeking, or merely another dead end cloaked in shadows? As she left the cafe, her mind raced. The revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, promising a confrontation that could finally unearth the truth about Lisa's fate. She had to return to that location, to uncover the secrets that lay buried there, to confront the ghosts of the past that had haunted her for too long. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but for Karen, the flicker of hope had ignited a fierce determination. She would not rest until she uncovered the dark secrets that had stolen her daughter away, and as she prepared to revisit that place, she knew that the next steps in her journey would lead her deeper into the heart of the mystery that had consumed her life for a decade. The truth was lurking just beyond the shadows, waiting to be discovered. As Karen approached the location, a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of town, she felt a mixture of dread and resolve. This was the place her daughter had last been seen, a forgotten structure that now seemed to loom ominously over her. Memories of Lisa flooded her mind, mingling with the anxiety that gripped her heart. Could this place hold the key to her daughter's disappearance? Karen stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the echoes of lost time. She scanned the dimly lit interior, searching for anything that might connect to her daughter. The walls whispered stories of neglect, but Karen was determined to listen closely. She walked deeper into the shadows, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, illuminating forgotten remnants of a life once lived. Then, she noticed something unusual, a small faded flyer tacked to a wooden beam. As she approached, her breath caught in her throat. It was a missing person poster, but not just any poster. It featured a young woman who looked strikingly similar to Lisa, someone who had vanished just months after her daughter. The name was different, but the details were eerily familiar. Karen's pulse quickened as the implications began to unfold. Was it possible that Lisa's disappearance was part of a larger pattern? She hurriedly snapped a photo of the poster, her mind racing with the chilling thought that perhaps there were others, like Lisa, whose stories had been silenced. In that moment, the weight of the investigation shifted. This was no longer just about one lost daughter. It was about a potential conspiracy that extended beyond her grief. Just as she began to absorb the weight of this new information, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was an unexpected message from a former classmate of Lisa's. The text read simply, "I know what happened to her." Karen's heart raced as she considered the implications. Who could this person be? What did they know? She felt a renewed sense of purpose surge through her veins. Karen understood that this was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment that could bring her closer to the truth. Yet, the realization that Lisa may have been part of something far more sinister sent chills down her spine. As she prepared to respond, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was venturing deeper into a web of deception, where danger lurked in every corner. This twist in her investigation pointed to a darker narrative than she had ever imagined. The disappearance of her daughter might be connected to a hidden world of secrets and lies, one that had been meticulously covered up. Karen's heart ached with the thought that her quest for justice could lead her to confront not only those responsible for Lisa's fate, but also the unsettling reality of a community that had turned a blind eye. With a newfound sense of urgency, Karen left the warehouse, driven by the knowledge that every second counted. She was determined to reach out to this classmate, to uncover the truth, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would come at a cost. As she navigated the darkness of her investigation, she knew one thing for certain. She was about to unravel a mystery that would challenge everything she thought she knew about her daughter and the world around her. The truth was closer than ever, but it was also more dangerous than she could have ever anticipated. Karen spent sleepless nights researching the name she had found in the classmate's online profile. The more she dug, the more threads began to unravel, leading her deeper into a labyrinth of connections that surrounded Lisa's disappearance. The classmate, once a mere name on a list, now seemed integral to understanding her daughter's final days. She learned that this individual, Mark, had been a part of a social circle that frequented the very spots where Lisa had been last seen. His online presence was sporadic, but a few unsettling posts hinted at an obsession with dark themes and cryptic references to secrets that should remain buried. Each click brought her unease, yet Karen knew she had to confront him. Determined, she reached out to Mark, sending him a direct message. She introduced herself and shared her connection to Lisa. As she hit send, anxiety gripped her. Would he respond? Would he be helpful, or would he shut her down? Days passed with no reply, leaving her in a state of doubt, fighting against the voices that urged her to give up. Just as despair began to settle in, a notification pinged on her phone. Mark had replied. The message was short and curt, but it felt heavy with implications. "I don't know what you think you know, but you should leave it alone." The warning echoed in Karen's mind. It was not the message of a friend or a helpful acquaintance. It was the tone of someone who had something to hide. Fueled by a mix of fear and determination, she decided to dig deeper into Mark's background. She discovered that he had a history of trouble, run-ins with the law, a pattern of erratic behavior, and a reputation for being involved in risky activities. Each revelation added layers to her growing suspicion. Could he have been involved in Lisa's disappearance? As she pieced together this unsettling profile, Karen also learned about a party that had taken place the night Lisa vanished, hosted by Mark and attended by many of their peers. The police had never followed up on this lead, dismissing it as teenage antics. But Karen felt differently. If Mark had been a key player that night, she needed to find out what really happened. With a palpable sense of dread, she began reaching out to other attendees, hoping to uncover fragments of memories that had long since faded. Many were reluctant to speak, their discomfort evident as they brushed aside her inquiries. A few, however, revealed chilling details, whispers of a fight, a girl who was in over her head, and a group that had crossed lines they should never have. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that the night Lisa disappeared was more than just an unfortunate event. It was the culmination of a series of choices made by those who were supposed to protect her. As Karen continued her relentless pursuit, she sensed she was nearing a breaking point, a moment where she would confront Mark and demand the truth. But with each step closer, the shadows grew darker. Who could she trust in this fragmented web of lies? Karen knew that unearthing the truth could shatter lives, not just her own. As she prepared for her confrontation, she steeled herself against the possibility that the answers she sought could plunge her into a reality more harrowing than she could ever imagine. The moment of truth loomed ahead, and with it, the chilling possibility that Lisa's fate was entangled with sinister forces far beyond her understanding. The final pieces of the puzzle were within reach, but at what cost? Karen felt the weight of the world pressing down on her as she approached the small, dimly lit diner where Mark worked. The flickering neon sign outside cast an eerie glow over the pavement, illuminating her anxious steps. She had spent weeks piecing together fragments of information, and now the time had come to confront the man who might hold the key to Lisa's fate. Inside, the familiar scent of coffee and grilled food mingled with the tension in the air. Mark glanced up as she entered, his expression shifting from surprise to guarded wariness. Karen took a deep breath, her heart racing. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. Mark hesitated, wiping his hands on a towel before motioning her to a booth in the back. As they settled into the faded vinyl seats, Karen felt the gravity of the moment. "I know about the fight. I know Lisa was involved with people she shouldn't have been," she pressed, watching for any flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. Mark looked down, shifting uncomfortably. "That was a long time ago, Karen. It's not something I want to revisit." "But you have to. You owe it to Lisa, to me," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "Whatever happened that night, you know more than you're letting on." He sighed deeply, the weight of his silence palpable. "There are things you don't understand. Things that go beyond just a fight." His words hung heavily between them, igniting a spark of desperation in Karen. "Then help me understand," she implored. "What happened? Was she taken? Did someone hurt her?" Mark finally met her gaze, his eyes shadowed with secrets. "It wasn't just about Lisa," he admitted quietly. "There were others involved. Things got out of hand. I didn't think—" His voice trailed off as fear flickered across his face. Karen leaned in closer, her heart pounding. "What do you mean? Who else was involved?" He hesitated, and in that moment Karen could see the internal battle raging within him. "There's a group. They operate in the shadows, and they don't take kindly to anyone who interferes. They wanted to keep things quiet, and I was too scared to speak up." A cold chill ran down Karen's spine. The realization that Lisa's disappearance might be tied to a dangerous network sent her mind racing. "You're saying you were afraid of them?" she pressed, urgency pouring from her words. "Yes," Mark replied, his voice a whisper now. "I saw things that night, things I wish I could forget. Lisa got too close, and they didn't want her to talk." With each word, Karen's resolve hardened. She could no longer stand by as shadows loomed over the truth. "We need to go to the police," she urged. "They can help us." Mark's face paled, panic flashing in his eyes. "No, you don't understand. If we go to them, it could put us both in danger. They'll come after us." "What choice do we have?" Karen countered, her determination unwavering. "I can't let this go." The tension in the air thickened as Mark's expression shifted again. "There's more," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "There are people who know what happened. If you dig too deep, you might find something you're not ready for." Karen felt the weight of his warning. The layers of danger were becoming clearer, yet her desire for the truth burned brighter than her fear. "I have to know, Mark. I can't keep living in this uncertainty." As their eyes locked, she could see the conflict in his gaze. Time seemed to stretch, and for a fleeting moment, Karen felt the walls closing in, the shadows of the past reaching out to ensnare them both. But there was no turning back now. The investigation had taken a dark turn, and she was prepared to confront whatever awaited her, even if it meant stepping into a world far more sinister than she had ever imagined. The pieces of the puzzle began to align, but the deeper she delved, the more she understood that the truth would come at a cost, one that might demand sacrifices she was not prepared to make. With every second that passed, she could almost hear the clock ticking down to a confrontation that could alter everything. As Karen pressed on, the threads of deceit and betrayal began to unravel. With each conversation she had, each document she uncovered, the veil lifted to reveal a sinister truth that had long been buried beneath layers of fear and silence. The day finally arrived when she stood face to face with those responsible for the disappearance of her loved one. Their arrogance and indifference were striking, the hollow smiles masking a web of lies that had ensnared so many. But Karen was undeterred. She laid out the evidence, the new clues she had pieced together, her resolve unwavering in the face of their denials. As the confrontation unfolded, the truth began to seep out. A hidden life, a dangerous association, and a betrayal that had shattered her family. It was no longer just a case of a missing person. It was a chilling tale of manipulation, of innocence lost, and of a community that had turned a blind eye for too long. The culprits were brought to justice, their twisted narrative dismantled under the weight of Karen's relentless pursuit. In the aftermath, as she stood in the quiet of her home, the pain of loss lingered, but so did a sense of closure. She had fought a long, arduous battle, not just for her loved one, but for herself and for all those who felt powerless in the face of injustice. The scars would remain, a constant reminder of what had been taken from her, but there was also a flicker of hope that shone brighter now. Karen's journey had revealed the complex interplay of truth, loss, and the human spirit's resilience. She learned that justice is not always swift, nor is it ever simple, but it is a pursuit worth undertaking. The shadows of the past may cast a long silhouette, but the light of truth can penetrate even the darkest corners. As the echoes of the past began to fade, a powerful truth emerged. In the quest for answers, we often find ourselves. And for Karen, that was perhaps the most profound revelation of all. The story of her loved one would not be forgotten. It would serve as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and the unwavering search for truth. What would you do if faced with the same darkness? Would you have the courage to seek the light?